Hello, how are you doing? Hey up me duck, welcome to this video. I'm going to talk you through my current Vivo selection, why I chose these specific boots or trainers, and help you make an informed decision what Vivo products you should be buying. Let's start with the trainers and address the elephant in the room.
What's in the box?
Currently I'm testing some samples for the spring 2023 range. So I can't disclose what is in the box just yet, but as soon as they are out on the market, I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that. Let's talk about the Primus Lites. These are the Primus Lite II. These give me the most freedom of movement. I like how flexible they are. I like the fact that they give me lots of feeling when I'm walking over different surfaces. Having something that is as light as possible, that is minimal as possible, and you still get all that sensory feedback. Building strength for my feet when I'm out walking, I'm out running. I've had them a year. They've worn fairly well. I've clocked up a considerable amount of mileage in them. You see some signs of wear coming through the toe. Hello. You can see they're starting to peel away a little bit there. I don't wear them with an insole. I always leave the laces tied so I can slip them on and off. They are showing signs of wear, just to be understandable with this type of shoe. They are a very thin sole. Considering the amount of hammer these shoes have had, I think they've worn pretty well. If I compare them to another pair of barefoot shoes that I've had in the past, these Innovates, they look a lot more tired and they've probably had the same amount of wear. When I've used something like the Vibram in the past, I think the Vibram are the closest to just going shoeless, but they can be a real faff. I can't always be bothered to plait my toes into here if I'm just going on a short walk or just around the block or just need to throw something on my feet. I think these are good, but one, you either love or hate the design, but these look like a conventional shoe, so you can get away with them in the gym, going to the shops. Not that that really bothers me. They look like a trainer, they perform like a trainer, but they give you that super minimalist vibe. So these are my favorite trainer. They feel more like an extension of my foot, and that's what I love about them. If I'm doing handstands, if I'm just doing some movement, I don't want something that is super heavy because that affects the way that you balance or the way you move. And I think Vivo themselves, this is their hero product, constantly evolving and constantly championing. So yes, awesome product. Next we have the Primus Trail 2 Firm Ground All Weathers. Bit of a mouthful, but you can see they're a little bit more purposeful with their intent. They've got the firm ground sole, they've got this quick draw lacing system. They feel slightly heavier and they feel like they cosset your foot a bit more. They feel more stable, they feel more durable. They are all vegan and they offer a lot better grip than those Primus Lites. I find sometimes the Primus Lite, if it isn't a totally dry day, if you're on a loose surface, the Primus Lites aren't particularly good. I find these firm grounds are my go-to shoe if I'm filming. If I'm not entirely sure what environment I'm going to be in, whether it's going to be grassy, muddy, inclement weather, something like this is ideal. It covers all your bases. And I would say if you're only going to get potentially one shoe and not get a trainer and a boot, then this is a shoe that does it all. Obviously with that there may be some compromises. In an ideal world you might have a couple of pairs of shoes, but these aren't cheap. So if you're just looking for one shoe, maybe you go for something like this, depending on your use case. For a long time, I just had Primus Lites and then I used a boot, a hiking boot or something else when I was going into environments that called for that. This is the midnight colour. I'm personally a big fan of blue. I think they look really good. A lot of my shoes tend to be black, but having something with a bit of colour is quite nice. I've only had these a month. When I go for a cold dip and your fingers don't work, it can be awkward to get a boot on and off, like a higher cut boot. Having something that is lower means it's a lot easier to get your foot in and out when your digits aren't working. And having this draw cord just means you can pull it tight. The only thing that I would change about these shoes is, see how long that is? I don't feel like they need to be that long. And I think they've got a new trail shoe which has got a slightly shorter draw cord, the knitted version. The Finisterre one, that has a shorter cord, and I think that's more practical because you find that you get all this toggle and then you have to like tuck it somewhere, or it's just superfluous. You don't need all of that. First world problems. Next we move on to the boots. They're hard wearing, lightweight, waterproof. I think these red laces split opinion, but personally I love them. The laces are almost textured so that they don't come apart as easily. I've had these for just over a year now. They're holding up really well. You can see some scuffs over the toes. I've been over the Yorkshire moors in them, through the Peak District, up to my ankles in water, and sometimes a little bit over my ankles. They come in another colourway, like a black and gum sort of colourway, but personally I really like this bracken colour. They've also gone a little bit darker. I bought some Renapure. Is it Renapure? I bought a big pot of Renapure, and interestingly with the Escapes you get a pot of this free. But anyway, when I apply that natural balsam, it's actually turned the leather a bit darker, but I really like that. I love the aesthetic of them. I feel like a boot, if you look after them, they'll look after you. The soles have held up really well, and they're still flexible for a boot. Making a right mess. As you can see with my trainers and my boots, I go out, all weathers, they get used. I've also used them with a pair of jeans and gone to a coffee shop in them. I think they've got a really functional aesthetic. I like things where the form follows the function. They look like something proper. They feel lovely and wide. They also come with a thermal insole, which I found has been really beneficial over the winter. But when it's not that cold, I take the thermal insole out and I wear them without an insole. By the time I've got a thick sock on, I think I could have benefited if they did a half size, like an 8.5. I think that would have been spot on. You know what it's like when you've got a thick sock on, it can just bump you up that half size. I've not tried the 9 on, which would be the next size up for me, and I haven't had any problems. That's just something to bear in mind. If you are looking at something like this, it might be worth trying them on or seeing if you know someone with the size that you're intending on buying. Compared to the Primus Lites, these feel a little bit more snug. The only drawbacks with these, and again this could be a benefit depending on how you look at it, they've got a 2.5mm thick sole and a 4mm lug, which is ample for autumn or spring, but I found that during the winter I really want something a little bit more aggressive. If I compare them to the ESCs or Escapes, you can see straight away how much more aggressive those soles are. When I chose these, I think if the ESCs had been available, I would have been really torn. Overall, I'm really happy with them. Spoiled for choice in many ways, but I think if you are looking specifically for a boot to go out in the most inclement or the harshest of weathers, it might be worth considering the ESCs. But I'm really lucky. I've got all these pairs that I can pick the right pair for the right environment. As a boot that does everything, very similar to the trail shoes, they will cover ground, they look good, they feel great, move really nicely. But just bear in mind that in the most extreme conditions, especially on descents, having the more aggressive W-shaped lugs in the Escapes has been beneficial. But overall, I think they look mega. And finally, look at those. They look like you can cause some real bother with these. It's almost like the new Land Rover Defender versus the old Land Rover Defender. These are proper. I've had these about a month now. I think they're awesome. If I was just to have 2 pairs of shoes, these and a pair of Primus Lites, everything's covered with these pair. If you want to move, if you go for a run, boom, these bad boys. If you want to really go for an adventure, there's no question. They're created in collaboration with wilderness experts, extremely aggressive looking. They've got those bobbled laces. They also come in like a brown and gum colour, but I think in black. They look like arm response boots. Super naughty. You can see over even just a couple of wears, the toe box has already taken a bit of hammering, so I will be looking to take care of it using the balsam. Would be potentially nice if like they've done here, where the high wear areas, the sole has come up, this Michelin sole, but you can see where this has come up, high friction areas, whether you're walking through something, you're tripping over things, you're kicking stones, just the very nature of you carving your way out through terrain, there is going to be wear. So it would be nice if you had a boot that if you looked after it, it would last years and years and years and years and years. And I've got no doubt these will, just a little bit more intent with that sole, bringing it up almost like a bull bar over the front, just to prevent some of this unnecessary wear. Just editing this video now, this is my old pair of hiking boots, just a mid-range Quechua boot, and you can see on the front they've got like a protective layer on a high scuff zone, so it's just going to give the boot a little bit more protection, and it won't cost a lot more to put that on, I don't think, especially when these boots are about 210 quid. To me, that looks like a super clean, super simple solution that won't take a lot more effort or a lot more cost. Just talking on this balsam as well, it is really nice that they've included this. When I first got the firm ground trackers, I bought some of this balsam separately, but they include that because it's not a waterproof membrane. On the website, I believe it says water resistant, but that's because it has like a sandwich structure, so it has mesh between the leather, and the leather is designed to be waterproof and breathable by its very nature. It's really important, especially in this scenario, that we look after the leather, hence using this. And a quick note on the waterproofing, the only time that I've managed to overwhelm these, I got up to my ankles or beyond my ankles and water was actually coming in over the top.
Oh, this is boot losing territory. Oh, the wet.
As I went in, I continued to sink down and the water overwhelmed the top, came over the top, and then I got wet feet. As long as you're sensible, more sensible than me, you'll be absolutely fine in these. I'm looking forward to doing many, many more miles in these. They will support me getting out, exploring, doing all the things. And as I mentioned before, when I ordered the conventional trackers, if these had been available, I think I would have just straight up opted for these. I'm super fortunate that I now can pick my weapon of choice depending on the weather, depending on the terrain. Let's talk about a couple of use case scenarios. If I was just to buy one pair of trainers, I would be really torn, really torn. For my specific use case, it's got to be the Primus Lites. Would I get these? Gotta be these. Every single day I put these on my feet and I love how they feel. Despite the wear through the soles, they haven't given up, they haven't given through compared to something cheaper or designed slightly differently. Maybe you're someone who works outside more, maybe you are doing more things that require going through wet terrain. Then something like these, the Primus Trails, will be awesome. They'll probably last longer. Do these in an all-weather, so maybe that would provide a little bit more robustness and prevent this wear, but they may be less breathable, so it's down to you. If you do have any thoughts around that, please feel free to put them in the comments. I will help where I can, or maybe someone in the community can give some feedback of what they've found through their trial and error. If I was picking one pair of boots, what's it going to be? Gotta be these, gotta be these. They are naughty. I think they address some of the shortcomings that I found with the conventional trackers. Fit for purpose, nice and high, just everything you want in a hiking boot. And you look at these and they look like they're gonna take you where you want to go. Maybe it's a shame that I've got both in black. I tend to wear a lot of black stuff anyway. I wouldn't be offended if these were in a jazzier colour. I definitely think you could get away with a very vibrant colour in the Primus Lites. Although I wouldn't do white. Personally, I'm not a white trainer guy because they would not stay white for long. If you're looking to buy 3 pairs of trainers or more, you've got a lot more flexibility. Maybe you go for a casual shoe. Maybe you have a trainer, a casual shoe, and then a hiking boot. Maybe you're someone who spends a lot of time in the city. Maybe you've got lots of meetings. Maybe that is more of a preference for you. They've got some really nice looking work, stroke, smart, casual kind of shoes. One day I'll get to test those, but as it stands, I can only talk about my direct experience. We all know what it's like when we have to wear a suit. You go to a christening, a wedding, and you're wearing stuff that you're not comfortable in. Why do we put ourselves through it? It's really great that a company such as Vivo is looking to make inroads into more conventional product ranges. So you're not having to make a sacrifice when you are dressing up. You can continue to look after your feet, look after your posture, look after the way you move without having to wear some formal dress shoe that's going to crimp your toes and just make you feel uncomfortable. And if you're watching this video, the chances are you feel a similar way. You want to look after your body. I don't think you go after a barefoot shoe if you just stumble upon it. You're someone who is invested in this whole meat suit. You're interested in movement and lifestyle and wellness as a whole. Hopefully that has answered some of the questions that you may have regarding what Vivo products to buy. I tried to talk from my own personal experience, but I would love to know what you think. What trainers are you looking at? What have you got in your collection? How do they fit your needs? I'm a personal trainer and coach, and I also specialise in cold water therapy. So a lot of my time is spent outside. I'm really fortunate. When I'm not outside, I've got my shoes off and I'm sat in here on the laptop. I don't have much case for other shoes. I have initial impression videos on my channel of these. I would do long-term reviews of these as well, because you don't always know how a boot is going to last or what you're going to think after 6 months, 12 months time. Check out the rest of my content. My content focuses on treating the mind and body and practices which I have found useful, and hopefully you will find useful too, to strengthen our mind and body through breath and cold exposure. What future videos would you like to see? Please drop them down in the comments below. I'll see you down there answering your questions. Love and peace. Oh dear. Made a rape mess.